We're good. I'd like to call the meeting to order pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20. I hereby inform all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of this meeting. With that, we'll go right into our agenda for this evening. We have open session minutes for June 18th and July 2nd for approval. I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the minutes for June 18th and July 2nd, 2024.
I'll second that motion.
So I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next, we have public comment. Is there anyone who would like to comment at this time? Please feel free to come up to the microphone, identify yourself for the folks at home, and let us know what you would like to comment on.
Okay, Kathy Hawley, Youth Commission, and I just want you to know what's going on with our commission. Pickleball for all ages will be held on Tuesdays. More information is forthcoming. They wanted to start today, but I don't know with the weather whether that happened or not. Movie night is coming back for 2 evenings in August. Again, information is forthcoming. We don't know which movies will be available. And here are some exciting items being added to Saturday, September 21st of Lee's Founders Weekend. A Tiger Wildcat Bouncy House. I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, but I'll try. Berkshire, I don't know, will be running a circus arts activities such as stilts, balance boards, juggling, etc. There will be free cotton candy and popcorn. Berkshire Arts Center will be running an art station. And of course, there will be the regular station of the Boy Scouts selling hot dogs and hamburgers. Bowie the Clown, Barry Oliberry will be there, and the Copsicle truck will be there too. Hopefully all of you will be there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.
Did you have a question?
I just said thank you. I don't have any. Anybody else have a question about the Youth Commission? No? All right. If there's no other public comment, we'll move into our general business. Our first order of general business is East Coast Renewable Energy. We have a charging station proposal, so if you gentlemen want to come up and introduce yourselves, let us know what you have for us. And
So my name's Nick Valuri. I'm the owner of East Coast Renewable Energy. I'm here to present the opportunity of a donation for the level 3 fast charging stations for the town. To my right.
I'm Jay Morendi. I live and work locally at Bard College at Simon's Rock, and I've worked with Nick, and I'm just sort of here to say that it's true. It seems like an amazing offer, but we have them at Simon's Rock, and you're all welcome to come see them. National Grid is working on putting on the final touches, but can't rush the utility company.
And I'm Matt. I support Nick and Jay's effort. I work with Jay in regard to helping the campus deal with energy and energy matters.
great.
So the reason why East Coast Renewable brought Jay and Matt is to have a real-life situation that was done in the area. So Bard College did install, is installing 9 level 3 fast charging stations. We've installed 3 already. Unfortunately, we have to wait for the utility to get lined up for everything. So we did have a ribbon cutting at Bard College. You can actually search it online. We did post it on our YouTube channel. So if you YouTube East Coast Renewable Energy, you'll see the whole video there. Any questions, you can reach out to Jason. I think I did email you guys his contact information. So if you have any deeper questions outside of what we're going to talk about today, or you can just take a ride to Bard College, you can see it.
Great. Do you have anything else you want to explain before we jump into just a bunch of questions? 'Cause I'm sure we have a few.
Yeah, so the questions is what I want.
Yeah.
So I'll just give you a quick high level. National Grid and Eversource for Massachusetts have an incredible incentive going on. The incentive is covering pretty much 97% of the cost of the equipment and installation. East Coast Renewable will be donating the remaining cost to the town. Within that donation, East Coast Renewable and the installer will be donating 5 years of cloud software, which if you do any research on that, the cloud software is, it does get expensive depending upon what charging station you use. The charging stations that we recommend are the Alltel brand charging stations. The reason why we recommend Alltel is that they are deeply rooted in the automotive industry. Alltel is actually the company that does the diagnostics for your cars. So when your check engine light comes on, you go to the dealership or the mechanic, they stick that little computer underneath. That's the diagnostics by Alltel. The reason why we recommend Alltel, and I actually, if somebody said they don't want to own these and operate them, these are the charging stations I would install for myself if I owned them, is that outside of their customer service overall as a whole, they have multiple ways of revenue. Whereas a lot of these charging stations have gone out of business because of the inability to handle what's going on with the ups and downs of the energy market. So Alltel is what we support. We can install whatever you'd like though. Additionally, the installer is donating the first year of an O&M policy. So the installer's O&M policy covers maintenance. They service the charging stations twice a year, which is an important feature because it is all three-phase power, so there's a lot of power going to this. They offer continuous monitoring of the system during the time frame, and you can extend it yourself. So first year is free. After that, if you want to pay for it, you can. Which one of the things that I really like about it is that in the event anything does break on the system, we give you 5 years warranty on the equipment, but obviously labor is something that always adds up. With the O&M policy, labor is free.
One other thing I think that's really unique to the Autel product is it has a complete modular technology as far as the components of the inverters, which is what transfers the energy to the vehicle. And so if you have one of two inverters or there's multiple inverters and components inside, if one is failing, that can be field replaced. You don't have the entire unit offline. So the uptime on the Autel brand product is some of the highest in the industry.
You will see, if you go to Bard College, you will see these exact charging stations. I did show you guys a picture of it.
Yeah.
But you can go to Bard and check that out.
I have actually a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
Did Simon's Rock choose to own the charging stations, or are you sort of leasing?
Simon's Rock owns the.
You own the charging station. And the second question is, what led you to that choice as opposed to letting East Coast own them?
We already own the chargers.
Yeah.
And the way it works for our college is better for us just to own things that are on the property. You end up giving an easement to National Grid to site the transformer and the new pole, but that's a relatively small amount of property. The management of the college just prefers to own things.
If you don't mind, I want to expound on that.
If you would, then.
With East Coast Renewables donation, in conjunction with the incentive that the utility offers, the only mandatory out-of-pocket expense that you're going to have is going to be the cost of electricity. So if you look at my flyer that you have in front of you on the second page, I have everything really built out with a electric cost at 25 cents and a charge cost at 45 cents. So bottom line is, you're making 20 cents a kilowatt based upon the charge, so you're always ahead of the game.
I see.
All right, so at least with the first 5 years, you're ahead of the game. There's no initial out-of-pocket expense for the equipment or the installation. We're covering the cloud software for the first 5 years, meaning, and the equipment is warranted for 5 years with us, because we extend that warranty. So in reality, the only cost you're gonna have is cost of electricity, which you're covering when people charge. Of course, the O&M policy is something that I would strongly recommend you take consideration on. So that would be an out-of-pocket expense at year 2. So with the first year, you're advertising that your charging stations are here, the revenue's coming in, so once year 2 comes, now you have the kitty to cover that if you so elect.
Gotcha. The O&M, sorry, I'm trying to understand. O&M policy we get for a year?
First year, the installer donates that to you for free.
Gotcha, okay. Gordon, do you have any questions at this time?
Yeah, I was just letting you guys know since you're in the room.
Sure.
Yeah, I have a few things that you would like me to do that now.
Please, go ahead.
Sure, I guess one thing I want to know is, hi, my name is Gordon Bailey. I just happen to not be in the room at the moment. I'm one of the board members. What happens after 5 years? Do you renew for X amount of time? Do we own it and you guys walk away? What happens after 5 years?
Yeah, so after 5 years, it's a great question. Everybody wants to know about that when something is new and out there. I'm gonna kind of start off with a joke, okay, in answering your question. It's like a car, right? You have a car warranty for 2, 3, 5 years. After that, what happens? It's kind of like the same situation, right? Warranty is gone, so essentially you have to take care of whatever may break. So at that point in time, if you don't want the charging stations after the 5 years, because the utility does require the charging stations to be on site for 5 years in working order and open to the public access. After that 5-year time frame, if you want to remove them, you can. However, I anticipate these charging stations to be a great asset for the town with continuous revenue coming in, but more importantly, the revenue of other people coming to the town and seeing what the town has to offer, meaning the coffee places and the gelato place and just getting more people to come to the town.
Go ahead, sorry.
So answer your question in more detail, after the 5 years, you're gonna own it, you'll have the opportunity, well, you own it right away, but you'll have the opportunity to either remove it or continue it being there.
You'll also, I think you're asking about the cloud software. The cloud software is an annual subscription after the 5 years. If you wanted a maintenance and operations contract, you could pay for that after the 5 years. There are companies that supply these services.
Extended warranty.
And extended warranties, etc. You need the software to make it work. That's sort of what registers the charger online and lets people know they can charge there, and does the credit card billing and sort of back end of it and collects the money. We have chargers at Simon's Rock that are level 2 chargers that are older, and we pay the annual fee on them now. The usual, just the cloud software subscription is sort of the smallest fee you can incur for the year. And after that point, if the town didn't want to invest in operations and maintenance or extended warranties, that would be on them. I will say that from an energy manager perspective and somebody who builds things, the real sort of excellent part of this incentive from National Grid is that National Grid is paying for all the high voltage underground infrastructure.
Right.
So in 5 years from now, maybe
That's
the
still
town
good.
just wants to buy a brand new charger and forget all about us. All of the stuff will be there in the ground. You'll be able to drop a new charger on the site and upgrade or go to a different product or whatever you want to do. But the real heavy lift and the digging and the permitting and all the real sort of difficult parts of this project, National Grid is going to cover now. And these gentlemen brought in some large contracting company out of Boston, NEC, and they handled things like total professionals, and I just told them put the chargers there, and they handled everything else. It was beautiful.
And this is the same for National Grid and Great Vantage, but Eversource.
It's a mass save, it's like an integrated mass save program.
Yeah.
But what is an O&M yearly cost typically
So it's $1,200 per charger.
per year?
So $600 per port, $1,200 per charge.
And there are 2 ports on each charge?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And Jason brought up a valid point where if your question was the cloud software, so we donate it for the first 5 years. I can't tell you what the cloud software is going to be in 5 years or 6 years from now. The cloud software cost right now is $500 a quarter. So, for lack of a better term, $1,000 in cloud software per charging station.
And what sort of...
So what happens?
Go ahead, Gordon, sorry.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead. You're there. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask how much work is done on the back end as far as, so somebody buys the electricity, pays with a credit card. I'm assuming that software, we're going to get a report once a month. Is it like a transfer into our account that we reconcile a year?
That's exactly it. You guys accept credit card for the town now?
Yeah.
It works just like that. So there's a batch time frame, which is called at 7 o'clock PM. Whatever is charged, if you would, until 6:59 will be in your bank account the next day.
Okay, so it's daily?
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll be a daily report.
Yeah. And then the beauty is you're going to be able to log in, just like anything with technology today. If you're down the Cape or in, Tanglewood, you can log in and set your prices wherever you want to be.
Would this,
So we set our,
go ahead, Gordon.
actually, do we set our own price range then?
Yep, so assuming you guys want to accept our donation and you guys own and operate it, you can set your price for whatever you want.
You can do it as a break even, you know, an event like this, community event.
The industry grows and changes. Do you have in 5 years, we might be looking at a totally different type of plug, an advanced plug, or, what happens with that? Do you guys come back and change the connector? How does I don't know how this works, I don't have an EV, so I'm asking how the thing functions with changes in technology. I've heard Tesla chargers won't charge Toyotas, that kind of.
Yeah.
How do we deal with all that?
So the charging stations that we're talking about are universal for all vehicles. I'm going to kind of let Matt talk on the Tesla. He's very into Tesla. So the simplest point, I'm going to let him take control, is Ford and I think GM over the next year is going to be able to charge to the Teslas. They're giving all those owners the ability to buy an adapter to charge.
Yeah, so
Matt, if you don't
why
mind.
don't I answer the question?
Yes.
So, Gordon, so today there are 2 standards, for lack of a better description, because we all look old enough, VHS and Betamax, okay? VHS is what we're putting in with the Autel chargers. It's known as CCS. Basically, every vehicle on the road today, with the exception of the Tesla vehicles, are currently running with a CCS port. Tesla's port is known as NACS, or the North American Charging Standard. Conveniently branded name. Got a good marketing department, right, with that one. What is happening is over the next couple of years, that North American Charging Standard will be the standard. All of the automakers have acknowledged that they will be modifying the vehicles to that North American Charging Standard, but between those 2 dates, there's basically life with an adapter. So these cars will be able to charge every other car other than a Tesla with their native port today. And then if someone with a Tesla wanted to use this charging station, they would take their CCS to NACS adapter, put it on the plug, and plug it into the car. The cable itself is a cable. And so at the end of the day, right now, you're being presented with stations that have CCS ports. There's no reason why in the future, as I mentioned with Autel, the technology is very modular. So I would assume that at some point, if we wanted to have a cable replacement, or if there was a need to have a cable replacement because of wear and tear and O&M, that an NACS cable could be put there. But right now, it's kind of all up in the air, Gordon, and it is a world of dongles and adapters. And I have some in my Tesla. My wife has some in her Volkswagen ID4. We have a collection of these extra adapters. And it is what it is for the early adopters that are buying these electric vehicles.
So what kind of power draws in these when you plug them in? What exactly are we looking at? Amperage, volts, whatever, what is it that's actually charging these cars? And how long is this car going to take up a space of one of our parking spaces?
So how long a car takes up a space depends upon the car and how big of a battery and how much charge it needs. The chargers are 120 kilowatts each, and they will fast charge. So most people would say stay for about half an hour and then move on.
Okay.
Which is really why you encourage this in a downtown area.
You can have a larger turnover. You don't have people there for hours.
You're engaging them for just long enough, right? That 20 to 40 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes is the time you want to be strolling around downtown, right? Getting an ice cream, getting a sandwich, a coffee, shopping at the shops. But it's not like, oh, now I'm going to stay there for 2 hours because I need to. That's really clogging things up. So the half an hour is actually a really sweet spot in regard to placing these in the public domain. Where Jay was also mentioning that the school has a bunch of level 2 chargers, right? Those are a lot slower, right? They're only putting out maybe 7 to 11 kilowatts. And if someone was to come here, they're like, well, if I really want to charge my car, I need to leave it for a couple of hours, and that's not what you want in a downtown area. You want to have turnover in regard to the utilization of the system.
So to go back to one of your own, sorry, Sean. Go ahead. I don't mean
when we're looking at this, I'm just wondering how many chargers is this table. This table here we have is like revenue for the town. Is that my understanding?
It's essentially that is showing this chart
Yep.
is showing the revenue after the initial capital investment.
Gotcha.
So I'm covering the capital investment as a donation to the town. So this chart is a little bit off.
Yep.
I will get you a updated chart showing no capital.
Is this one charging station?
That is based upon 3 charging stations.
3 charging stations.
So
Gotcha.
6 people, so if you look a little bit farther down, everything is based upon the average charge. And low utilization is 1 person charging per port. So if you have 3 charging stations, that's 6 people charging per day, per year. Mid utilization would be 2 people charging per port, or 12 people per day. And high utilization would be 4 people, or 24 people charging per day per port.
Let me just also give an example though, because I stopped at Big Y, right, that has the Tesla superchargers in Lee. In the 25 minutes that I sat there, there were 6 transactions which occurred in just the half an hour that I sat there, right? So, you realize quickly that the expectations of maybe only 1 transaction per day is pretty minimal. And in all reality, the likelihood of it getting quite a bit more utilization than that is pretty likely.
Especially considering Tesla currently only charges Teslas.
Right. You're looking at the entire rest of the market.
You're going to charge everything else.
A question more out of ignorance than anything else. I don't know anything about this. What do we, if we have, say, 3 stations all together, or whether they're separate, what do we do on a busy day in town? Do we have to, somebody says, I just need a parking space, and I'm going to park in front of this thing, and I've got a 1953 pickup truck, and they're parked in that space. Are the police going to have to stay on top of that?
That's something that you guys would handle yourself.
Okay.
Understand that if somebody's parking there, it's taking revenue away from the town.
Right.
Okay?
There's no law on the books in the state. It says,
It's not like
it happens at the school.
Right.
We have 4 level 2s at the athletic center.
Right.
And it happens, I don't want to say all the time, but every so often, we get a little spillover from the handicap spots on water yoga day, and
Yeah.
some people are parked in there with non-EVs, and it's tragic, but So it's not really worth me getting upset about.
You can address a lot of it with signage, right? You know, it is etiquette. Unfortunately, when people need a spot, they need a spot.
Yeah.
And there's a terminology, they call this icing, when you park your internal combustion engine vehicle in an electric vehicle spot, you're
Okay.
iced. But it's etiquette, and I think, you know, Jay did some wonderful signage at the school. So they put bollards up so that you're obviously protecting the charging station. So there's big yellow bollards, and that's already a visual aid. And then if you put signs that say EV charging only, some businesses go so far as to paint the parking spot in front like a bright green, or put the lines to be a bright green, just to kind of create this subliminal courtesy.
Sure.
But it's etiquette. And we're out here in the Berkshires. Most people are pretty nice.
Could we opt for more than 3? Or could we
So-
try to get the approval, like we were kind of talking earlier upstairs, for push that into like more if we wanted to?
So yeah, the incentive is per location. So I think the most we can do per location is 4 charging stations, which would be 8 spots. Now, I think that's excessive for a town. Perfect for Big Y, Walmart. But for a town, in my opinion, 3 is perfect. I wouldn't go 1 anywhere. And the reason why I say I wouldn't go 1 anywhere is, as people know the charging stations are there, if you have 1 charging station and 2 people are there, if you want to go there, you're not going to want to wait 30 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever it is. So you're going to find the next one. Once you find the next one, you're always going to go to that next one. So I think the minimum at any one location should be 2. 3 is, I think, ideal, but you have to have the parking. So behind the town hall would be good for 3. The front over here where I park, 2. Okay.
What's the maximum incentive available to any community from the utility? Is there a limit?
It's undefined, to be quite frank with you. However, if you have taken advantage of the Make Ready program through the level 2 incentive, opposed to the level 3, opposed to the EVIP incentive, it does take away from that. So that's one of the things that we will submit to Eversource, and they'll come back and they'll tell us what you can get approved for. Does that
Yeah, another question. You know, as they say, nothing's free. So what's in it for you guys?
Great question. So, East Coast Renewables View, which is my company, is a donation to the town. In this example, 1 charging station, we're just going to call it $10,000, is my way of establishing a relationship, but also open up marketing opportunities throughout the town. I look at it as a little bit of a different view. If I gave my SEO company $10,000, I may get nothing out of it. Whereas I can install the charging stations in the town, 1 location, cost me $10,000 to invest, and I have the notoriety of the town that East Coast Renewable did it. So if you guys wanted solar installation residentially, commercially, whatever it is, I can generate business that way too. So it's a lot to do with marketing for me. Also, good deeds. No good deed goes undone, right? So I don't think that without me being an approved member of the MMA, which I think that's how we originally connected through the MMA event, most people wouldn't know about this, and being able to bring this opportunity to municipalities throughout the state of Massachusetts, I think is a great opportunity, opposed to just going to the businesses that have people knowing what incentives are, and they take advantage of it. I think giving this opportunity to towns and having them to be able to generate revenue and showing the community that they're progressive, I think is a better opportunity of this incentive.
So we have how long is this incentive type thing going to be available for?
So per the utility, this incentive is going to go for the next 4 to 5 years. However, this incentive that we're currently in is limited to the current incentive money, which I believe is $200 million. So when that incentive money dries up, I'm sure they're gonna renew the incentive, but the question is, how much are they gonna renew per location?
Yeah, incentives always go down over time, right?
So Gordon, are you familiar with the solar incentive over the last 10 years?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so,
I've also watched a million solar businesses go out of business. You know, and so I just want to make sure the relationship's good. I don't want to know what your background is. I have to read that,
Yeah.
to see, you know, your background, if you're going to be around in 5 years or 10 years. A lot of the solar companies who came into town, we've done solar, we tried to go solar panels for the town before, and those companies didn't last, everything collapsed. So I'm just a little shy. I just want to understand where we're headed and who we're headed with.
gotcha. So I will talk about that real quickly. So I've been vetted by the MMA. I've been vetted by Constellation, okay, in order to be part of the MMA. Very similar to Alltel, my company has multiple branches of revenue. So in the event that the EV incentive goes away, my company still does energy efficiency, the net metering program through the community solar program in the state of Massachusetts, solar installation residentially and commercially. So anything can happen, and I use the example of Enron. No one would have thought Enron was going to go out of business, or some of the big banks that closed. But what I can tell you is my company that I built is not a one-dimensional company, meaning it doesn't just do EV. It doesn't just do solar.
Okay. So another thing, I was interested in your, and I'm sorry I forgot your name.
Nick.
For me, it's the gentleman on the left. Actually, who used the, way over, who used the analogy of like, this is VHS and this is Betamax. At this point in time, nobody uses either of those. So I'm looking forward to saying, well, that was my question about, well, as we progress and go down the road, is it just a matter of changing out a head or an adapt, you know?
Yes.
I assume we're still with the same power. What would be the changes we may look forward to?
I think it's just cable management, right? I mean, look, all of these energy devices, and you were talking about some complexity with solar, right? So even if you installed a solar array and it had multiple inverters within that solar array, the solar panels should produce energy for 25 years or more. And the inverters typically last about 10 years. So at some point, you need to replace a worn part. You do the same thing for the engine of the snowplow that the town owns, right? With these Autel devices, I think first and foremost in regard to the power source, the inverters and the computer, those are all modular, and the cable itself is just a component of that. So if the market evolves as it appears that it will to be all with that sleeker Tesla adapter, then at some point, you can choose to modify one or all of the heads to the Tesla cable, and it'll probably just fall into an operations and maintenance cost. It is tough to foresee the future, but what we do know today is that the federal government really has put an enormous amount of incentive into the market through the infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act. And the Commonwealth of Massachusetts has made commitments to getting to net zero from a carbon emission standpoint, and electric vehicles are one of the major ways that they look to do that. They've decided to provide very, very handsome incentives, basically 97%, and that's a limited pool of capital. So if you guys have the opportunity to do your diligence on where this money can come from and take action, the community can take advantage of the higher incentives. And if you need some time to think about it, you're probably going to be dealing with a smaller pool of capital. It's kind of that simple right now, because we're at this really interesting inflection point where so much money has been committed to building out electric vehicle charging infrastructure.
All right, so another question is, when I asked about how long this incentive was and whatnot, we have a major project coming up in the next 1.5 to 2 years with a new public safety building. redoing a lot of parking. And I was gonna propose to the board that we put charging stations in when we did that. But
Yeah.
that's probably groundwork and all that's probably a year and a half or 2 years out. So that's what's the time frame? If we said, okay, by the end of August, we'll sign with you guys, we want to go forward. What are we looking at for a time frame to be able to get you to commit and then everything follow through and we actually have a charging station and a system?
So everything is based upon Eversource. So let's say the end of August, you guys get me the documentation that we need, which I'll be happy to go into if you want. It gets submitted to Eversource. It's been taking Eversource somewhere between 4 and 6 months to issue what they call the pre-approval. The pre-approval is going to go over and identify what locations are approved, what locations are approved with the incentive, and what the terms and conditions are to accept that incentive. After that, in most cases, and I use the word most loosely, we have to issue, Eversource will issue a new service agreement because they do give you a new electrical bill and new direct energy to it. And then there will be an easement document that needs to be signed for National Grid or Eversource to have their equipment on that site. Once all those documents are received, now we're just waiting for the formal approval, if you would, or authorization to install. We've been seeing the current time frame being about 9 months for total install from start to finish. However, I have seen at Eversource, they recently changed their portal, if you would, and everything's becoming a little bit more streamlined, so I'd like to think that maybe 6-7 months from start to finish, but again, I can't really justify what Eversource nor National Grid, how fast it will.
Nick, you had made mention though earlier about the difference between submitting for an application to getting approval and then the actual implementation and how that might line up not only with site one, let's say here at Town Hall, but this safety building being a little bit farther down the road. Once you get approved, Gordon, you can take a little bit of time to get installed, right? You don't have to pull the trigger on the install at the same rate of the approval from the utility. So you can stagger the deployment between Town Hall and the new safety building that really aligns best with the blacktopping and the construction of that site.
And it would be, it would probably be,
That's what I was wondering.
yeah, and it would be to our advantage or important for us to make sure if we wanted to go get approval for multiple stations as much as we can, or as much as we would think we would have a need for in town, we would want to get that full approval, and we can always say, well, actually, we really only, at this point in time, want to do these 2 or 3.
Yeah.
That 4th or 5th charging unit, we can say, you know,
So I'll give
we
you
can say we're not gonna do that.
another real example. This is me. We signed the paperwork last October, and they just came around this past March or April to issuing the pre-approval. And then we expedited it because we have this EV event coming up, but we could have certainly dragged our feet between being approved by the utility and actually putting the shovel in the ground.
yep.
Once the utility has sort of approved you and everybody agrees that like, okay, this is what we're gonna do, everybody kind of considers it's gonna happen. But for example, even though we had those chargers done by early June, National Grid's been out there working since then, finishing their part of the trenches and conduits and transformers and that sort of stuff. So the utility does not generally work super quick, and in your situation where we're talking about multiple projects, that's also what I have done at Simon's Rock. So we have one project at the Art Center that is now approved, installed, and I'm pretty sure they connected it to the grid today. Whether or not we're gonna turn them on within the next week or so, fingers crossed. But I have 2 more projects at other parts of the campus, because the way this grant reads, you can put 3 into any named parking lot. So like there's probably a name for this is the town hall parking lot here, and that would be the new municipal center parking lot.
Actually, the church owns this parking lot, so
Oh.
we would have to get approval from them, but I'm sure they'd be willing.
They might be ready to play ball, but once it's sort of on the books that you've signed up with National Grid, they approve these or don't approve these in the order that they were received.
Right.
So that's why Nick seems like he's in a sort of rush to do this, because getting on that list into that queue is going to decide whether or not you get that first round of money or later rounds of money. There might be less.
Which I'd like to go back to that because we kind of glazed over that. Gordon, when I was asking you if you're familiar with the solar, you said, well, solar companies have been coming and going. The comment that I was trying to make, or what I was hoping to make, was when solar in Massachusetts first came out, there was an incentive called SREC 1.
Yeah.
And the revenue that was generated from that was incredible. When that incentive was filled, it went to SREC 2. I don't want to say it was 50% of what SREC 1 gave, but it just continued to stagger down. And that is what I perceive, and quite frankly, most people perceive what's going to happen. When this incentive fills up, it's going to take some time off from no incentive. They're going to rework things. And then when the incentive comes back out, it most likely will not be where we're at. And I don't know if I'll be able to do the donations I'm doing when the new incentive does roll out. Does that make sense, Gordon?
Thank you.
Bob,
You guys, any other-
do you make
No, I think,
Yeah, well,
oh, Kathy.
Kathy, we'll get, yeah. Kathy, do you have a question? Sorry, go ahead.
I'm good, thank you, Sean.
I'm trying to listen and I'm trying to remember history of all these renewable energy things, and this, the charging station, so not only Big Y, but up at the.
There's two at the outlets, I
right?
think.
That type of thing.
These are gonna be much similar to the ones at the outlets.
Okay. My concern is there's so much information and you're just sputtering out all this stuff. I hope before you make any decision that maybe there's some way to involve, the public.
Sure.
To involve us to, see, are we making a good investment, or is it just something, it looks really almost too good to be true? There's concerns about businesses in business and then not in business. You know that I'm all for dealing with the economy and moving things for Lee. I love Lee. But I'm really concerned because I want to make sure we're making good decisions. And where is this going to be? Does this go then to the planning board? If you, where does it go? Like, where would these stations be?
Sure, yeah.
Because there's so much happening on Main Street, or a big difference even in traffic with the bigger cars or I don't even know what they call them, but anyways, you're trying to get out of the parking lot and you can't see because there's this big thing in front of you or coming in or whatever. So I'm not knowledgeable about these things. I don't pretend to be, but I'm just concerned. I don't want us to make really quick decisions without getting involved in what's going on. I have no clue. So,
Yeah, I think, I don't.
Thank you for listening to me.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. I don't think we were planning on entering into agreement tonight.
Okay.
And to your point about where these are located, I think we have some ideas, but we don't exactly know. I think we need to hash those details out and kind of come up with maybe a number of charging stations. This is based on 3 here. I don't know if that's the number that we want to look at, or maybe we want to look at 2 or 4, or I don't know. We're gathering all the information. These gentlemen are presenting it, and then we'll be talking.
Presentation, except
Yeah.
like my head's spinning because it's almost too much information.
It's a lot, for sure,
Too
yeah.
much
And Sean, what I was
to
going to
take at one
suggest
time.
too is, if the board is interested, I'll work with East Coast for some proposals to bring back to you.
Yeah.
Locations and more. This is kind of an introductory thing, so if we're interested. And then I know we've talked, there's been a lot of interest, especially in the municipal parking over by where the Uraldi building is now. But that may not be the only.
I could see them at the Eagle Mill eventually, when that parking lot gets done. I could see them in a couple other places, yeah. So,
Because I know we still, well, I shouldn't say I know we still. I know at one time we had the opportunity to buy property across the street from the Eagle Mill for municipal parking. Do You recall that there was a possibility the town could purchase it for X amount of money. And then, I don't know what happened to that discussion, but that land is still there, still available. So, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, and there's another, I mean, with the demolition planned at the EMS building, that might be another parking location that we might want to look at. So I think this is definitely a good starting point, and we've got to kind of build.
Basketball court.
We can do both. We can put a basketball court there.
I'm just teasing. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks, Kathy.
I'd like to just make a comment
Yeah.
on what Kathy had said. Based upon the current incentive and what East Coast Renewable is willing to donate, there is no capital investment out for the town.
I understand that.
Okay, so the only real capital investment is going to be the cost of electricity, and essentially the cost of electricity is going to be covered by what people are paying for the charge.
Right.
So at least for the first 5 years.
That's the rate you were projecting. We're spending 25 cents on our electric rate. We're going to be charging 45 cents to charge. So we'll be in the black.
But in all the installation, is that also gifted?
It's all covered, it's all covered.
You know, but I still think we should.
We still need to
check
do
it
our,
out.
Your comments are noted, Kathy.
Okay,
We're gonna
thank
do our due diligence and make sure that these are in the right locations. We
appreciate
don't
it because-
we don't just throw
No, I-
10 of them into a parking lot in
We've
town.
gone through this before. I've been through many of the meetings when we talked about this. Doesn't mean I remember everything, but
That's okay.
I tried. Thank you.
Thank you for asking some questions.
Gordon, do you have anything further, Bob?
No?
Yeah, well, I would only point out that we already have a municipal lot.
Yes.
You know, that we do own, and it's not all that old. It's kind of like, you know, near the telephone building, you know. So that's something that we want to keep. If they need 3 for a location, that would be a different named lot. So, but we'll talk about it in the future. I'm all done with the questions for tonight. And thank you very much, John.
So I would suggest, Chris, yeah, we follow up with some proposals of locations and we revisit this maybe sometime in August or, yeah.
That work for you? Yeah.
Whatever works for you guys, I do want to make a strong suggestion.
Please. Yeah.
Taking the ride to Bard College.
Yeah.
It's about 15 minutes from here, nice little ride. Check out the charging stations. You can kind of really see how everything looks and how it goes, so you'll have a better idea. So Bard College is a great venue to check out what was done.
Well, thank you. If you guys have anything else before we, move on, please feel free to add, but.
Contact, and thank you.
Be sure to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer any questions about what it's really like to be the sort of nonprofit end.
Sure.
That's why they bring me along. But
Yeah, thank you.
feel free to give me a call, and like I said, come visit us down at the Rock.
Yeah, thanks for an engaging conversation too. It was great. You had some documents beforehand and good thoughtful questions.
Thanks
right.
very much.
All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, our next order of business.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for coming. Jay.
Very much.
Matt, thanks you. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Have a good day.
All right.
Thanks, Gordon.
Thanks so much.
All right, we have, our next order of business, we have a bond sale to sign. And I suppose at this time, I would entertain a motion that the sale of, this is gonna be a long, so bear with me, everyone. This is gonna be a long document that we're just gonna read, and this is gonna be sort of what we're moving and talking about with this sale. But I'd entertain that we move that the sale of $7,740,000 general obligation public safety / public works facility bonds of the town dated July 25th, 2024, the bonds, to Robert W. Bard and Company Incorporated at the price of $8,074,953.30, and accrued interest, if any, is hereby approved and confirmed. The bonds shall be payable on July 15th of the years and in the principal amounts and bear interest at the respective rates as follows. So here's the rates. This is the table, then the rates that we're going to be talking about. Next year, 2025, $65,000, that's at a 5% rate. 2026, $180,000, that's at a 5% rate. 2027, $190,000, that's at a 5% rate. 2028, $200,000, that's at a 5% rate. 2029, $210, that's at a 5% rate. 2030, $220,000, 5%. 2031, $235,000, 5% rate. 2032, $245,000 at a 5% rate. 2033, $260,000 at a 5%. 2034, $270,000, 5%, and then we're projecting that the rates are going to come down. 2035, $285,000 at a 4% rate. 2036, $295,000 at a 4% rate. 2037, $305,000 at a 4% rate. 2038, $320,000 at a 4% rate. 2039, $335,000 at a 4% rate. 2040, $345,000 at a 4% rate. 2041, $360,000 at a 4% rate. 2042, $375,000 at a 4% rate. 2043, $390,000 at a 4% rate. 2044, $405,000 at a 4% rate. 2045, $425,000 at a 4% rate. 2046, $440,000 at a 4% rate. And 2049, $1,385,000 at a 4% rate. So further voted that the bonds maturing on July 15th, 2049, a term bond, shall be subject to mandatory redemption or mature as follows. Term bond due July 15th, 2049, year 2047, $460,000, 2048, $475,000, and then 2049, the maturity, $450,000. Further voted that in connection with the marketing and sale of the bonds and preparation and distribution of a notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated July 9th, 2024, and a final official statement dated July 16th, 2024, the official statement, each in such form as may be approved by the town treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further voted that the bonds shall be subject to redemption at the option of the town upon such terms and conditions are set forth in the official statement. Further voted that the town treasurer and the select board be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver a continuing disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the town, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the bonds for the benefits of the holders of the bonds from time to time. Further voted that we authorize and direct the town treasurer to establish post-insurance federal tax compliance procedures and continuing disclosure procedures in such forms as the town treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax exempt status of the bonds and to comply with relevant securities law. Further voted that any certificates or documents related to the bond, collectively the documents, may be executed in several counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original and all of which shall constitute one and the same document delivery of an executed counterpart of a signature page to a document by electronic mail in a PDF file or by other electronic transmission shall be as effective as delivery of a manually executed counterpart signature page to such document, and electronic signatures on any of the documents shall be deemed original signatures for the purposes of the documents and all matters relative thereto having the same legal effect as original signatures. Further voted that each member of the Select Board and town clerk and the town treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessarily or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes. So if one of you would like to make that motion,
So moved.
I'll make it one, I don't have to read it.
you gotta read the whole thing again.
Yeah, never mind. Okay, no, I move that we sign it, that we move forward with this and.
So I have a motion.
You do, from me, Gordon Bailey.
Gordon Bailey, Bob, do I have a second?
I will second that.
Have a second. Any discussion about this? So that was kind of a breakout of how the bond's gonna work for this public safety building, right? And you wanna go ahead?
Yeah, so we were actually, we had a bond sale, and we actually had 10 different lenders that submitted proposals, which is a very good number. They hope we have to have at least 3, and we were hoping for 5, so that we got 10 was really good. For those that don't know, we do have good news that our bond rating did go up, so that was good news as well. And so the true interest cost was at 3.37%, which is a little better than we were expecting. So all good news there. The call date is 8 years after the bond. They do add 2 years to that, and that's why you see after 10 years the interest drops from 5 to 4, and that's at such time as we can refinance. So that's why they lower it, if we can, we have the option to refinance it after 8 years. So, and those of course are that's the coupon interest versus the true interest cost. But the debt service schedule that I provided the board, we are on a level debt service, not a level principal, so those payments will essentially be right around just open $502,000 to $503,000 a year for 25 years. We originally went into the idea this as figuring we'd have a 30-year bond, but between the better rates we were able to get and so forth, we were able to stay within our budget and do a 25 instead of 30. So obviously that 503 is just for the first part of it, so there will be more coming in about a year from now, but that will be the on a level debt service schedule of the annual payment. So
Right. So that's breaking out in the first roughly just over 8 million, like stated in the beginning of the motion. Yep. So that's our first bond for the public safety.
the idea there being cover land purchases, architectural design fees, part of the OPM fees, and the beginning of demolition and with some environmental contingency over that. So at that point, we'll have a construction bids in, so we'll know about some further grant money and be able to pinpoint the exact number of the second half of the bond. So.
I mean, if there is no further discussion, I'd call for a vote to sign the bond sale.
And just as a clarification, you're authorizing the signing, and the signing will happen on Friday.
Gotcha. So we're off. So I would call for a vote to authorize the signed bond. Sorry, let me restart. So I'd be calling for a vote to authorize
Well, the vote
us
on this motion.
to sign. This motion.
Authorizes you to do so here,
Gotcha.
so, yeah.
We're doing it.
The motion that you read is
I'm
the
just
best
gonna,
way to say it.
if there's no further discussion, I'm just gonna call for a vote at this point. You guys have anything further?
No.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
We're on our way.
locked in. Our next order of business. We have an election coming up, and I'll read our letter from our town clerk. This is, it says, "Dear Lee Select Board, as the chief election officer of the town of Lee, I am recommending that the hours and dates for early voting in person for the 2024 state primary on September 4th to be as follows. It's gonna be Saturday, 8/24, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday, 8/26, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Tuesday, 8/27, 1 a.m. That's got to be 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Wednesday, 8/28, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Thursday, 8/29, 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. Friday, 8:30, 9:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. According to the state election advisory, for a town with less than 4,999 voters, required weekend early voting in-person hours, at least 1 day per week, and at least 2 hours each day you are open, and at least 4 hours total each weekend. So that's required. Required weekday early, that was for the weekend, and then required weekday early voting in person hours, at least 25% of regular business hours. So for weekdays, by default, the early voting hours are during regular business hours. However, the select board has the option to limit early voting in person hours. To limit the hours, the select board will need to vote to do so at a public meeting held no later than 20 days before early voting in person begins. Early voting will happen right here in the courtroom. So that's our recommendation for the hours and early voting in person from our town clerk.
Mr. Chairman, I move we accept the suggested protocols as put forward by the town clerk.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. If there's nothing further on this, I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, moving right along, we have a temporary sign permit. This is for the Lee Farmers Market. The Lee Farmers Market. The applicant is Kathleen DeVerens, who's our Chamber of Commerce Executive Director, and it's a 6 square feet sign. There's a small graphic here. The sign's going to say Lee Farmers Market Saturdays, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the dates of the sign are July 24th to August 23rd.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, go ahead. I would entertain a motion for approval at this point.
Yeah, I was going to make a motion that we sign the extension to the temporary sign permit for the chamber.
I'll second that.
So if there's nothing further, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 And is this also, so I have a second one for the banner. You guys also have that? Is that the same? That's not the same sign, right?
It was actually for, I guess with 2 signs, actually, the banner and the sign.
Yeah. This is the second one.
Right, so I guess I'd entertain a motion to approve the second temporary sign permit application for the Lee Chamber of Commerce. This is gonna be a 26 square foot sign, same dates, same expiration. Yeah, so I'd entertain a motion for approval on this.
I'll move that we approve the extension as well for the banner.
I'll
I
second.
have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion on the second temporary sign permit, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Next order of business we have is an inspection fee waiver. The Lee Elementary School and Lee Middle and High School are due for their inspection renewals on August 31st, 2024. The schools are requesting to have their inspection fees waived, so I would entertain a motion to inspect the fee waiver.
Mr. Chairman.
Tripping over my words.
I'm going to recuse myself from discussing the board voting.
Sure.
And let you two handle this.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we waive the inspection fees for Lee Elementary, Middle, and High School for the August 31st renewal.
And then I'll second. If there is no further comment, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. One abstention, one recusal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And our next order of business, we have a 30-day extension for a BYOB permit. This is for Appetito. Appetito's annual alcohol license is still pending, so they are applying for a 30-day temporary bring your own beer permit.
Mr. Chairman, I
Mr.
will...
Chairman,
Go ahead,
I
Gordon.
make a motion that we, I make a motion that we sign off and approve the extension of the per-year bottle permit for Appetito.
I'll
30-day extension.
second that.
Okay, if there's no further discussion on the extension, yeah, go ahead, Kathy, come on up.
I don't understand, so it means like anybody can bring in their own beer?
Correct, yeah, they don't currently have
I
a liquor
understand
license,
that.
so they're,
My question is, how does somebody see, you know, how many beers you have
right. Well, it would still be on the tip certified staff to
to
monitor.
oversee that?
Yeah.
Okay, because I don't, I mean, I don't drink, so I don't care for myself, but I get nervous when, you know, we do have rules and regulations that make sure that nobody leaves a premise.
And those all still apply. I mean,
Influence,
yeah,
okay.
you're not gonna be able to have an open container and leave the
Right, yeah,
restaurant. You're not
yeah.
gonna be able to,
But I mean, can you go in with like 5 beers or something? I mean, I don't,
I'm relieved, Kathy. I thought you were asking how much you should bring.
I don't drink. I usually have my 1 glass of water. Okay, thank you.
thanks. Yeah, so I have a motion and a second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Yeah. I try to mute that every once in a while.
Oh, I see, yeah, it was a little delayed.
And so I didn't know if I was going to mute it or not, so that's why I did.
All right.
But it's, Karina's laughing her head off. You are on camera, Karina.
Aye.
All right, the next, we have a couple appointments for the Historical Commission and the Lee Youth Commission next. So Steve Noble would be appointed to the Historical Commission. If I have a motion to appoint him.
So moved.
I'll second.
All those in favor in appointing Steve Noble to the Historical Commission?
Aye.
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 And then we have Carter Marks, who would be appointed to the Lee Youth Commission.
Aye.
I'll make a motion that we appoint Carter Marks to the League Commission.
I'll second that.
Second. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor for Karl Marx on the Lee Youth Commission?
Aye.
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 At this point, I would entertain any issue, any topic not reasonably anticipated. Gordon, Bob, do you guys have anything you'd want to add?
I'm good, thank you.
No, thank you, I'm all set, thank you.
Okay, and if that's the case, then Chris, do you have a report you'd like to give us?
Sure, a couple things. One, I wanted to mention that after a little over a year after applying, the Department of Public Utilities will be holding the hearing for our electrical aggregation next week. So that's a good sign. We're getting close to having that approved. And hopefully, pending everything goes well in the hearing, which I'm sure it will, we should be ready to start taking the next step shortly, within the next few months at least, for our electrical aggregation. Also, an update from the EPA. They are going to start working next week on the Columbia Mill Dam. So just to let people know, that's really nothing to do with the remediation at this point. It's just repairs to the dam. Right now, they've noted some issues with it. They've been doing monthly inspections. They're going to be addressing those, and then the dam will go back to quarterly inspections until it's taken down. And lastly, I just wanted to mention that our 50/50 mural is in progress. The artist Cheyenne has been here yesterday and today. Providing we don't have any issues with the weather, she should be finished up for unveiling on Friday at 2 o'clock. So, board is invited to attend.
Great.
Oh, I did have one other, EPA update. The quality, they've indicated the quality of life plan, they'll be asking for that to be updated, and we won't have any, I believe the due date for GE won't be till sometime in the fall, but they will be reopening that for further comments and for revisions, so.
Great. Okay. Well, we will have a next regular meeting at on August 6th. And if there's nothing further, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Here we go.